Let's get back to the markets now with CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady. Kelly, what a whiplash. What a 24 hours. What's behind the sell-off that we're seeing on Wall Street?
Yeah, I mean, at one point, the Dow was down over 2,100 points, and we clawed back some of that, but it was really, really startling after yesterday. So look, yesterday we got this pause on the tariffs. Investors were excited that maybe there are some deals, some trade negotiations to happen. I think today what you saw was a little bit more reality setting in. I spoke to a lot of investors. Yeah, you can actually see how much on the screen right now, the volatility. I spoke to investors yesterday and they said this is not the bottom. Everything changes minute by minute with this administration. And so we know that there's going to be more volatility ahead. And so you really saw that play out today, as well as the fact that the trade war with China that seems to be developing was ratcheted up to a 145% tariff. That also sparked some sell-off.
Yeah, 145. I had to double check that I saw that number correctly whenever it first came in this morning. 145%. What kind of impact will that have on the United States and how consumers approach things?
Well, I mean, it seems rather obvious, but prices are likely going to go up. Think about it. If a product costs $100 when a buyer purchases it, it comes across the border, that buyer is going to pay $145 on top of that product just to get it into the country. That's going to be impossible for them to absorb completely. So it's likely going to be at least some of it passed on to you and me.
I want to turn also to the CPI report, which has gotten a lot of headlines today. It shows inflation rose at an annual rate of 2.4% last month. Of course, it doesn't reflect the full impact of the president's tariffs yet. But what can we take away from this? What can we read into this?
So if I'm the Federal Reserve, this is an important report for me, and I'm saying, okay, you know what? Inflation is actually moving in the right direction. We've had two consecutive reports under the Trump administration. This is a good report card. We are seeing inflation move in the right direction. I think where, as you pointed out, this doesn't show the impact of the tariffs. But the good news is that inflation everywhere else seems to be moving in the right direction. Gas prices are coming down. The wild card is tariffs.
A big wild card at that. We're hearing so many different kinds of businesses saying that they're going to change how they approach everything because of these tariffs. CEO of Amazon saying in an interview today that some third-party sellers may pass the cost of those tariffs on to their customers like you and me, as you had mentioned. How much of Amazon's sales really come from these third-party sellers?
Over half. I believe actually last year it was around 62%. And so that's significant. And as we said, right, the inflation that report doesn't include the tariff impact. So when you start to see that passed on, you also start to think about, well, maybe you and me, we're not going to buy as much. And consumer spending pulls back, and that's when you see an impact of the economy. So definitely something to watch.
And we know you'll be watching it. Kelly O'Grady, thank you very much. Finn Gomez joins us now. He is the CBS News Executive Director for White House and Politics Coverage. Finn, always a treat to see you. Given all these tit-for-tat tariffs and this whiplash, does the White House see a path forward with China on trade? And what could that look like given all the changes that we've seen?
Well, yeah, Nancy, right now it's essentially a standoff versus the Chinese. The White House and the president, even today in a cabinet meeting, he's expressed optimism of a deal, but they essentially want China to make that first move. So far, China has not shown any indication about making a move. But the U.S. tariff increase on Chinese imports right now effectively totals 145%. A White House official confirmed that to CBS earlier in the day, Nancy. So at this point, there has not been a lot of movement here, and it's sort of a wait-and-see approach to see what the other does next.
And Finn, I also want to ask you about something else. About 3 hours before President Trump announced that pause, that 90-day pause on some of these tariffs, he posted on Truth Social, this is, quote, this is a great time to buy. You see that post right there. Now, we saw how the markets shot up once that pause went into effect, but some Democrats, they're calling this market manipulation. So how is the White House responding on all of this?
Yeah, we spoke to the White House earlier today, and they essentially have laughed it off, Nancy, that they've denied that President Trump was engaged in any market manipulation. And you're right, Democratic Senators Adam Schiff of California and Ruben Gallego of Arizona, they sent a letter today, Nancy, to the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, and also Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, asking for an investigation into potential conflicts of interest here over that tweet, over that X post from the president. But again, the White House has accused the Democrats of quote, playing partisan games. and saying essentially that there was no market manipulation here by the president or his administration officials.
And Finn, switching gears on today, Russia also freed an American ballerina in exchange for a Russian man who was held in the United States on smuggling charges. So what can you tell us about how this swap came about? Why is this significant right now?
Well, you know what's really interesting here, Nancy? Just a little while ago in that same cabinet meeting, the president was asked about this. And he said that UFC CEO Dana White, who was a close ally and friend of the president, petitioned personally for the release of ballerina Xenia Carolina, who was facing treason charges in Moscow. She's a Russian-American. She was arrested back in 2024, in early 2024, over a $51 donation that she made to a charity that supported Ukraine. And that was on the day that Ukraine was invaded by Russia. Carolina was facing 12 years in prison. She was exchanged on the same day for a Russian-German man who was being held here in the United States over smuggling charges, Nancy. But at this point, she was freed. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, announced in a statement that she was back and is now in safe hands.
Yeah, we saw a lot of smiles in that picture right there. Finn Gomez, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy.
Later this hour, we'll have more analysis on President Trump's escalating trade war with China and how his tariffs are affecting U.S.-China relations.